You ready?
Yes, Mr. Moore.
Good morning. I'm Tony Marshall, President and CEO of Innovative Systems Group. We're a software company based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. Our claim to fame, our most recent claim to fame is that we just set up a cybersecurity apprenticeship program that hopefully you'll hear a lot more of further down the road. I'll be moderating this session, and Dr. Charles has asked me to be a taskmaster. At 12:25, we have to be out of here and gone. So what we're going to do is that I'm going to introduce the panel. Each of them will have 10 minutes up to 10 minutes to do a presentation. Afterwards, we'll open the floor for questions, a question and answer session. At 12:20, we will stop the session, and we will allow Veronica, who will be recording the session, or writing down what the do-outs are of it. And we'll do that for 5 minutes, and at 12:25, as my kids say, we'll get to the good part, which is the eating. But, so anyway, without further ado, let me introduce you to our distinguished panel. To my left, I've got Miss Janet Johnson. She's the Information Assurance she's the Chief of the Information Assurance Division at Fort Bragg. To my right, I've got Ms. Renee Fournier. She's the Executive Director of Cyber Skills Management Support Initiative with the Department of Homeland Security. To her right, we've got Sale Lilly. He's the Sales Associate Consultant with Ward Circle Strategies, Operation PAVE, the paving access for veteran employment. And last but not least, we've got Mr. John Bellamy, who I believe you all know. So I'm sorry.
I can't remember.
He came in last,
But
but he
he
was
came
on
in
the
with
research
research,
panel.
My apologies. We've got Mr. Jewel Gullich with the Incident Response Management Network Enterprise Center for Fort Bragg. My apologies. Okay. All right. So with that done, we will turn things over to Jewel, if you can start us off.
Welcome everybody. Technical training panel. I have a lot of different hats. One is I'm a teacher here actually for the center. I teach part of the cybersecurity certificate, hacking and packet analysis. I also teach over at Tech for their security program, Security 110, and they're trying to kick off cyber law and cyber forensics program as well. So a lot of different hats there. Fort Bragg, I'm the incident manager. Basically, there's a lot of different hats. You have to be offensive and defensive. Like we try to tell everybody that wants to get into incident response, you kind of have to have a knowledge of everything IT to be able to do your job better. Recommend the CompTIA, I guess you say base, A+, Net Plus, and Security Plus to get you in the door, your entry level stuff. And once you move up to different areas, say networking or security, you want to kind of go towards Cisco or Brocade or security. You want to do CH, EC Council stuff. About it for me.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Ms. Johnson.
Okay, my name is Janet Johnson. I'm the Chief Information Assurance Division, which will change over to Cybersecurity Division for shortly. I've been working for the government for several years. I've worked in joint environments. I've been with the NEC on Fort Bragg for about 6 weeks. Prior to that, I've had about 8 years with the Joint Special Operations Command as a cybersecurity division chief. I also worked at Defense Security Services as an information assurance manager, and the list goes on. What I've done in the past is worked with computer network defenders, penetration testers. I've worked with vulnerability managers, certification and accreditation staff, and pretty much managed all of those arenas. But I have, in some capacity, worked in every last one of those areas in my career. As far as education goes, I have a master's in information systems. I'm certified as a Chief Information Security Officer. I have my CISSP, my CISM, and I'm also certified as a systems analyst.
All right, Ms. Forney.
Good morning, everyone. Great. My name is Renee Forney, and I'm the Executive Director of Cyber Skills at the Department of Homeland Security. I've been in this field for over 20 years. I have an undergraduate degree in Computer Information Systems and from DeVry, and Master's in Engineering from George Washington University. Like my counterpart, I have been doing this, and when I was listening to you, I was like, oh, that sounds like me. I've done many aspects of cybersecurity in the technology field over those 20 years. And it has afforded me the opportunity to be in the position that I am now, where I'm looking across the Department of Homeland Security, ensuring that we have the capacity of skilled labor in the cyber workforce to make sure that we can carry out our mission. So having an in-depth understanding and background in that field, having done it, kind of helps me as I'm looking across the department to determine what we need and where the gaps are. A lot of people don't know a lot about what the cyber mission is as it relates to the Department of Homeland Security. And that's one of the primary activities that we have. Not only to look at our internal workforce, but to grow and expand that pipeline of talent, which you just heard a lot about in the previous session. One of the activities that we found important in growing and expanding that pipeline of talent is when we began to speak to students, we realized that they didn't know about our mission space. So it's very difficult to recruit people, even though they might be sitting in STEM coursework, trying to recruit them into the space when they have no idea what activities are actually taking place. So if I say to you Secret Service, which is a part of the Department of Homeland Security, what do you all think? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Protection, the protection detail. Well, most people don't know that the Secret Service also has the legal authority to protect our financial infrastructure. So when you hear of a hack at Target, or things that take place at Sony, or things that happen with JPMorgan Chase, or any of our financial industry partners, the Secret Service is there and investigating that. If I say ICE, which is Customs and Immigration, which is a part of the Department of Homeland Security, what would you think of?
Immigration.
Immigration, okay. Well, they also have a lab called C3, where they fight child exploitation and human trafficking. People are being bought and sold each day. That is done via the internet. So they help focus on transnational crime. So within the department, we need cyber forensics analysts who have the aptitude, as you heard earlier, and the skill to come in and take these jobs and help to be able to fight that crime. When I was walking in today, there was a young cadet who helped me get parked, and I asked him, what was your major? And he said, criminal justice and law enforcement. And I said, okay, make sure that you have a cyber spin on that. Reason being is because most of the crime that's taking place is taking place via the internet. So if you don't have an awareness of that vehicle, it's going to be very difficult to act in that vein. You have already heard about the Coast Guard. A lot of people really take the GPS technology for granted. They really do. But making sure that you can secure that network that GPS technology is being used on is very important. When you think about our cellular technology, our Customs and Border Patrol division within the department has one of the top mobile technology labs in this country. So much so that local law enforcement reaches out to them when needing help to perform certain investigations. Most of the students, I know myself, I have my nieces here with me today, and I have a teenage daughter who I know I would probably have to surgically separate her from her cell phone. But what we have is a generation of people who are consumers of the technology. We need innovators of that technology. We need people who are forward-thinking, who can then take that technology to the next level. who can break that technology, who can understand how to fix that technology, who can learn how to protect us from our own selves as it relates to that technology. Kids take pictures every day and post them on the internet and have no idea of how GPS technology works with the photographs that they're posting, and that there are over 250 data points that are associated with that metadata related to that picture. Students need to know and understand that. That's important. That's important for their daily lives. The Internet of Things, the connectivity that is taking place with our daily living, students need to know and understand that. One of the other things that we try to focus on in the department is not only those hardcore technical skills, but we also need to look at those support services that are associated with those. So when I talked to Dr. Charles about coming down today, I said, okay, what's your target audience? What are you looking for? What are you trying to do? We talked about the transitioning veteran. And my thought there was that, okay, I'm not only interested in the transitioning veteran who's already in the technology field, who 9 times out of 10 will know how to navigate the technical waters once they come out of the service. But I'm also very much interested in that professional who might have been 30 years in the procurement area, 30 years in the law area. You need those support services in order to do effective incident response, not just the technology, not just the hands-on technology guru. When it comes to procuring, if you are procuring for uniforms, pencils, and paper, the skills that you need to do that might be slightly different than the skills that you might need to procure for, let's say, services to support a SOC or to support a cyber threat analyst area. Those things are important. So no longer can we think about this career field just being just a hardcore technical gurus. We need to think about the interdisciplinary areas within that, because that's really where it is today. One of the things that I think the Admiral spoke about earlier is that the U.S. Naval Academy has gone forward with ensuring that there is a basic cyber course for everyone that comes in. I think that was a smart move. A smart move because in almost anything that you do, cyber will be related. Can't get away from it. You just can't get away from it. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to let Sayle go ahead and take over from here, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
Say I like it with that, just like you.
This is going to be click intensive. I don't want to burden you.
Mr. I'll do it.
Sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll stand. I have a low threshold for coffee. I'm already on like 2 cups this morning, so I'm a little wired. Just a quick overview. My name is Sayle. I was previously in the Navy, active duty for about 8 years in Intel, and also as a linguist, and then got out in 2012. Had a year to do a degree with the GI Bill, and then came into the commercial world doing consulting. But I'm also now working with the Veteran Service Organization. Similar to organizations like the Wounded Warrior Project, American Legion, or VFW, I'm now working with a group underneath the Paralyzed Veterans of America called Operation PAVE. PAVE's an acronym, others in the military. Paving access for veteran deployment, and the focus is on helping military members who are active duty or who are veterans transition into roles in the commercial side. Specifically here at Fayetteville State University, we've been working with John Bellamy and Dr. Charles to look at ways in which military veterans can be employed in cybersecurity roles as IT professionals, whether that's here in North Carolina, in Cumberland County, or outside. And so much of what I'm going to be talking about today is sort of based upon our year of engagement, working with FSU and working with Operation PAVE, trying to take veterans who have their CompTIA certifications or certified ethical hacker, and then move to a position in cybersecurity. So we're offering a lot on anecdotal experience. We're also drawing on some general statistics from the Department of Labor to give you a sense of what training was already useful, that the military veterans came into the field, not even having a background in IT, that was actually very helpful. What training did they need, and sort of what are the key barriers we're looking. So this definitely has a veteran spin on it, And for those of you who are not in the military but are here from a cybersecurity aspect, I would still say there's probably some use in these comments here because it may give you a sense of what cybersecurity professionals need or ought to have that they may not have coming into the civilian side, even if they had like a master's degree or a higher level degree in computer science. So I think this partnership has been very helpful in understanding that. Next slide, please. So first, I told you a bit about pay. I'll talk about why do we care about this problem beginning with what's bringing us all here. There's some problem. If it was just positive news about cyber in the world, we would be probably in the commerce or finance section where we would have all been in 1999, right before the dot-com bubble broke, when cyber vulnerabilities were relatively low, but benefits from e-commerce were high. So then I'll look at military veterans as part of the solution, as a comprehensive solution. How can military veterans, with their training or with the appropriate training, play a role in the solution specific to the cyber problem? Then talk about those barriers and just have a quick conclusion. So next slide, please. Okay, so as I mentioned the problem, so what's bringing us all here? You can look in the news and see a spate of cyber attacks. It sort of comes down to three critical areas. We're concerned about theft, we're concerned about disruption, and on a very specific Department of Defense side, we're concerned about the loss of our strategic intent or the disclosure of that to nations that are not friendly or organizations that are not friendly to America's view of how security should operate in the world or how to best preserve security and safety. Theft, disruption, and loss of strategic intent. But why is that different than where we were a while ago? And I want to, we have a picture of Steve Jobs and Wozniak up there, the founders of Apple. It's probably useful to think about this. We have some of the most incredible technology in the world. There are regular rollouts of iPhones, iWatches, cars that now drive themselves. Why is it that the tech prophets up here who regularly give 18-minute TED Talks and tell you where the futurists of the world are going, how good things are going to be, why are the prophets so bad at protecting the temple? I mean, we have I shouldn't say sanctioned, but we have allowed vast amounts of our American wealth and knowledge to simply be expropriated over the course of the past 10 to 15 years. And yet the same individuals who we consider tech geniuses didn't also, in some sense, give us the keys to protect that kingdom. And so I want to talk a bit about why that was the case. And so the more we understand the problem, I think the better we understand what kind of training we need. So quickly, collaboration for firms like Apple that were in Silicon Valley in the 1980s was a premium. It's important to communicate and be able to speak, and so protections and safeguards weren't initially built into a system that was designed to facilitate communication. But it also had so few users who actually had access to that information, and that's the second point of access. Very few users were able to access that information, and it often required hardware to be able to access it. And so when we're looking at an example here of like the Apple II, or that's the Apple Lisa, when the software to that information was stolen, the Soviet Union had a multi-year campaign to steal the IBM 360 series and the Apple computer. They succeeded, they got it. They got around export controls in the 1980s. Both of these computer systems, and the picture's only of the Apple, but it's also true of the IBM 360 series, both of these systems were exfiltrated to the Soviet Union, and it never created any market disruption. And so you have to ask, why is that? And that's because Apple's export market to all of Asia and what we consider the Soviet bloc during the time was zero. They didn't export there. So it never impacted how these companies operated. The Soviet Union could steal this information all day, and it only impacted the overall military strategic balance. All those computer systems resulted in a firing system to upgrade a MiG. That was it. That was the grand plan of stealing the best that America had to offer in terms of commercial technology. Now that's a big deal if you're rereading a Tom Clancy novel or looking through what happened during the history of the Cold War. That's a big deal in an armed conflict, but it has very little commercial implications. There's almost nothing important there. So when we're looking at cybersecurity professionals, 2 generations ago or a generation and a half ago, the demand was really small. We didn't need people like we do now, and they could be specially trained to be focused on preventing hardware access. So we're thinking of espionage during the 1980s. So demand was really small, point of access was small, and we could treat the problem with the central government being the main actor. There didn't need to be a big solution where we're bringing people together at a symposium like here, where we have commerce, research, education, government, and defense all in one place. The kind of solution we need now. And I'm getting to the point here, but basically the old system was poorly suited to handle what we find now, which is the opposite of each of these 3 points, where we need compartmentalization, where point of access has drastically gone up. Even if you work in facilities at a high-tech firm, you still have an email account, and now you're a point of access. So no matter how simple your job is or how rudimentary it is, or how little it involves IT, just the fact that you can log on to Google systems in not Santa Monica, but out in Mountain Valley, means you're a point of access. Even if you don't know anything about computers except to check your email, you're now a viable point of access for anyone who wants a point of intrusion. And so that's why these same tech geniuses that we saw who invented the system, they built the kingdom, the tech kingdom in Silicon Valley 3 decades ago. Can you go back just for 1 second? Weren't necessarily thinking about how to protect it, because all these systems in place, the Cold War, points of access, were all different. And so this generation is the generation that now needs the training to solve this problem. Okay, next slide, please. I told you it's going to be quick and intense. I'm sorry, John. Okay, so can you go back just to that top point? How can the military be part of the solution? In working with military veterans here, specifically in this classroom, who came through their CompTIA certifications, there's been about 4 or 5 classes now in the course of the year, so we're talking about just under 100 IT professionals potentially. I know the classes have grown, but something like between 80 and 100 IT professionals. They actually have a lot of training that they didn't realize was valuable. And I want to talk about the first piece that's valuable, that regardless of their classification, whatever their MOS, if they're just an 11 Bravo, I say just, because that's no small thing, but if they are focused on human leadership and they're not thinking about technological leadership, they actually have something that's really handy. To the first point, please. So an 11 Bravo comes in by already being threat constructions by training. If I walked up to any military base and set my bag down, and this is anywhere we were deployed near a FOB, and I set this down there next to a base in front of an MP and walked away, first of all, I wouldn't probably get very far, but the bag would be quickly cordoned off and identified. But we treat random emails or junk emails into spam and into inboxes in the way we might regard a bag next to a wall. For what a commercial firm might be. Well, it may be hazardous, I don't know. We're not really interested. So we'll either just move on or delete it, or people will leave it in their inbox and check it, look inside it. Do all the things you would never do with physical force protection. And I say that's important because the military, being a threat constructionist by trade, means you expect an attack to come. So every FOB I've ever been on everywhere, I say everywhere, in CENTCOM, and this would also be for AFRICOM and EUCOM, MPs, by nature, are just threat constructionists. They assume the threat's going to happen today. It's not today, it's tomorrow. That's very handy for institutions that are focused on software and commercial product rollout. They're not thinking about threats, they're thinking about revenue. Not everybody in that firm needs to be thinking about threats, but what's handy about military personnel who are thinking about transitioning, they've already transitioning into a commercial or a cybersecurity role. They've already been trained in an environment to think about these threats. So next. They're already compartmentalizing information. There's normal air gaps between NIPR, CIPR, JWICs, and other higher systems that reside on American intelligence communities, but also in DoD systems. That's also very handy because air gaps, not that they're a solution, there's lots of workarounds. There are workarounds around air gaps, but it just starts to get you to think about how information should be compartmentalized, and you think about how you send information to others. So that's helpful. And the third, go to the next one, is that human intelligence was already considered the key vulnerability in military operations 50 years ago. The military already looks at safeguards to protect the human disclosure of information, which many firms are now discovering are their main points of vulnerability. When someone looks at an email or has been socially engineered to approach a website that they feel they're okay to log in personal information. So what does all that mean? For the military, it means the military is culturally suited to handle information security in the future with the appropriate training certification. So 2 quick examples. Can you go on them? So going back to an example that Mandiant published, this is Advanced Persistent Threat 2013. A critical aspect that I would say military training is useful would be for someone like at ASOC or Fort Bragg. This could be someone like a 35 Papa who's a crypto linguist. Someone who's looking at emails coming into the company at like a Lockheed Martin in 2005 may not think much of the syntax above. Next, please. So they would read this email. We'll tomorrow review the SharePoint training, and then just may delete it. They may click on the link, but they might not think anything of it. But a crypto linguist would look at this and know something's very odd, because standard American construction for use of the English language should go, tomorrow we'll review the SharePoint training. That's not the way it's written. Next, please. Instead, it was written as subject, time, verb, object. A little odd. If you had a Boolean expression that could search for this, you would know that the person who actually wrote it was using this language. Next. So they would have been speaking or writing and thinking in Mandarin. And part of that problem means that you could solve the fundamental issue of attribution. One of the hardest things to do in all advanced persistence threat is to understand where the threat's coming from. If you can name it and shame it, you can get much closer to understanding how threats originate and then how they can be captured and quarantined. And I would say that when Mandiant looked at this, they absolutely had it. It's a free document, type in APT1 Mandiant 2013, and you'd be able to look at the PDF to show you how they use many of the skills that ASOC or JSOC use right here on Fort Bragg, I say right here, in this region, to be able to solve problems. The person who solves these problems could just as equally be a cybersecurity analyst. Next, please. And you can just go to the next slide and the picture comes up right here. So I know we're running a little short on time. One more. And one more. So for any of you who study Stuxnet, from an offensive point of view, you need someone who has the ability to do battle damage assessment, to be able to engineer a threat, and to better understand the risk involved with that. If you look back, regardless of who is attributed to doing Stuxnet, and read about the New York Times 2014 expose on how it was designed, the person who weaponeers in real life to drop tomahawks on targets in Afghanistan, but doing the initial rollout of invasion in OEF and OIF, did a job very much similar to this job here when Stuxnet was rolled out, to be able to look at an engineering system and say, what do we not like, but how do we prevent excessive damage? So someone had a very focused collateral damage mindset walking into this problem set, and so offensive and defensive operations have many of the training aspects that the military already has. In some cases, you just need to explain to the person that if they're a 35 Papa or if they're an 18 Charlie, they may not be a cybersecurity analyst, but they very well could be because they already have the core training necessary. Next, please. So, if we're not there yet, and there are many individuals in the military who could be cybersecurity analysts, what's preventing them? I told you all the training that they do have that's good. What's preventing them? Well, one geography and location. Of the top 5 cybersecurity cities, only 2 of them are close by. Raleigh, I say only 2 of them are close by to military base hubs, San Antonio and Raleigh. The other locations that are in the American Southwest tend not to be closely located to American military bases. And when military veterans are stationed at bases, they take VA loans. They tend to stay in homes in areas that they like to be for 20 years, and they may be less willing to move. That's a small thing. Second one is on training. When military professionals try to move into cybersecurity, they're less likely to have a programming portfolio, and they're less likely to have a conventional internship. Maybe there are ways around that where we can consider unconventional internships with companies that are defense contractors, where our military veterans could get that 1 to 2 years of experience to step into a job that they wouldn't think of taking when they're 35 and leaving the military. And last is just the issue of knowledge. You have to tell military members that they can actually be cybersecurity analysts, even if they happen to be a linguist or an 18 Charlie Special Forces engineer. They're all applicable. So I hope you would evangelize that and pass that message to military veterans who could be cybersecurity analysts. They already have most of the training. They just need to lock it down with a certificate and then maybe an internship. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Going to turn it over to John.
Okay, I'll try to make it as brief as possible. How many are not military in here? If you could please raise your hand. Okay, so all the acronyms and things you may not understand, but I want to talk about what we do here at the center. We partnered with University of Maryland Baltimore County Training Centers last year. They run cybersecurity academies with several different courses, and they have about 10 of these labs, and they run them day and night, and they run them with businesses and civilians and the military. So we partnered with them. We said, how can we do something like that here at Fayetteville State University? So we have 2 courses right now, and we want this to grow and grow. These are non-credit courses, but we've been working with our faculty here, and we want to get some of these cybersecurity classes into credit courses, into our curriculum, before we don't want to be last. And so we have Certificate in Cyber Foundations, which is, we have three classes in that course. CompTIA, Network Plus, Security Plus, and A Plus. And so there are no real big prerequisites for that. The course goes from, we have a course now that started on started in February 4th, and it graduates on May 14th. And then we have another one in the May time frame, and then another one in the September time frame. Try to rush. So those courses all are held here. They're hands-on. These computer stations where you're sitting at, they come up, and then we have computers that they can take apart and things like that. We have another course that is Certificate in Cybersecurity. That is more advanced than what Mr. Gullidge was saying. That gets into Certified Ethical Hacking, Linux, Cisco Certified Network Administrator, and Network and Packet Analysis. That is a longer course. So we offer these courses. We just started last year in March. And so far, we've had, no one has failed the courses. The instructors had background checks. They're from Fayetteville Tech, Fort Bragg, and we're working on more instructors. So if anyone of you are in here that can help us with instruction and you have a good background in these fields, we would certainly appreciate it. So veterans can use their GI Bill benefits. We're working to get it into the tuition assistance program. We also have veterans that may have used their GI Bill benefits up, and then we work with Cumberland County Workforce Development, and they have Workforce Investment Act funds. They've actually paid for 4 of our students that have hardships or whatever. So that is a good thing. Civilians are taking the courses. They can pay out of pocket, but we're working with companies also to see if we can have grants or things like that to assist with funding of these classes. So that's what we do here in the Center for Defense. And the symposium is all about getting our graduates from these courses connected with employers and connected with folks that can get them with the requisite training that they'll need and follow on with careers and things like that. And Ms. Forney is going to help us with that. So thank you guys for coming. I know we're running on time, and I'll let Mr. Marshall take it over for the questions and answers.
So we're going to open up the floor for a question and answer session. So any questions?
I was going to ask a question about what was the QA process for the course. I think you answered the question when you said some of the folks here on this panel, I mean, it's about 40 years combined of cybersecurity experience. So you guys are all working together to QA these courses for the...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have.
And I like to say, when it comes to the thing that intrigued me about this course, when I spoke with Dr. Curtis, is that I thought he was really on point with what he was teaching. So trust and believe that the skills that you will learn through this course are skills that are needed. I'd ask you to take a look at the Homeland Security Advisory Council Task Force report on cyber skills. You can Google that, and within that report, it lists 10 mission critical skills that are important to the Department of Homeland Security. A number of those skills are being taught in this program. So it is a program that has taken advice from industry, has looked around to figure out what is it that needs to be taught to make sure that you have the skills that you need in order to enter the workforce. One of the other things that we do at the department is that we realized that people needed the opportunity to be able to see for themselves what opportunities and what activities were actually going on within the department as it related to cyber. So we started an internship program where last year we brought in 70 students from across the country, and we placed them within our forensics labs, not just in the DC area, but across the country, in our forensics labs and state and local fusion centers. So this gives students an opportunity to come in, utilize the coursework that they've taken, and get to see firsthand and work in some, let's say for instance, our Secret Service forensics labs or state and local fusion center. That type of training is invaluable. I think it helps students to connect the dots to figure out, well, which part of this that I want to do. Because when you said that there are over 40 years of experience up here, yes, but there are many different pieces and aspects of cyber. And one thing that I like to say is that when I think about cyber, it's a circle, and there's room for everybody on the circle. There's room for the novice to the guru. It's all about figuring out where you fit into that realm. And the pipeline is so shallow at this point that we can't afford to turn away anyone. We really can't. So anyone who has that aptitude to go into that space needs to look at taking coursework such as this and utilizing the experience, as Sale has said, that you gathered over the years throughout your military career and using that to help you move forward.
The makeup of our classes is a combination of civilians who, you may have a guy who says, hey, I don't know anything about computers, I don't know anything about IT, but I want to learn how to protect my home. So we have, and I want to pay out of pocket to take this course. Then we have military active duty who are working in the IT field. They know they need these certifications to get into the IT jobs. Okay, then we have military separating service members that want to start a new career. hey, I've worked in this MOS for so long, now I want to get into cyber. Cyber is not going away. It's the #1 threat in the world right now. So that's why they're hacking Target and all that. So we have people that want to take these classes to learn more about cyber and then go out there and get those certifications to get the jobs. We have a combination of folks with bachelor's degrees in computer science. They never had the certification. They never had it. So they go out looking for a job and they say, where's your A+ certification? Where's your Security Plus certification? They can't get the jobs. And then they have to have the experience on top of that. Okay, we have folks with master's degrees in information technology, master's degrees in IT. The certifications weren't taught in the curriculum. So you went to school for 4 or 6 years, they don't have that. So this is a start what we're doing with these 2 small courses. We want to grow and grow so that folks are learning more about the cybersecurity so that we can help protect our own country. So that's it.
I got a question. Does the certification transfer into some type of credit?
College credit?
Yes.
We're working with some of our partners because some of our business partners are saying, yes, they can do that, but we haven't gotten to that point yet. And also we're working with our faculty and curriculum here to where we're going to automatically transfer them into credits. It's not in place yet, but it's going to be in place. We just started last year.
The question is 2-part. The first is directed at yourself.
Yes, sir.
I understand that you have business partners, and I understand that, like you said, nobody's failed the course yet. The certificates are going well. With those business partners, how is the job placement relationship between this course and that? Because, like you said, there are military separating members. That's the paradigm that I'm speaking from. As far as passion is concerned, the gentleman from Valve or Dave said, "Hey, we already have the passion, the threat constructionist mentality. Okay, so we want to help the industry.
Yes.
Are we being helped through this class, right, to get into that industry immediately afterwards?"
Yes, yes. And that's why Mr. Sal is here. They come to each of our classes, and he gives a longer presentation and talks about how they can help. They help them with resume writing. So, for example, if you take this course, now you're ready. You got your certificate, you're ready to go into the job force. Then they help them with resume writing, how to present, how to use your military skills to transfer them into the cyber civilian skills and things like that. We work with companies like IBM, General Dynamics, and Booz Allen Hamilton, who have internships for cyber jobs that will be available. Let me give you an example. After the first class graduated in May of 2014, we had 14 folks graduate. It was our start. They graduated. We had an email from IBM saying, "Hey, Dr. Charles, John Bellamy, we've got 30 internships in the cyber field. Give this information to your students, have them go online and register for these internships, paid or unpaid, and they qualify. They can go into these companies and learn more about what we do at IBM as how their skills can be related to that." So that is the other reason for this symposium as well. All of the people you see here and in the other rooms and things over there, it's to build the partnerships and relationships. And to my knowledge, this has never been done at an HBCU or major university on this scale. So this is the beginning. So you being here, it's a part of a real good thing. Yes, sir.
And I was initially going to ask it as a question, but since you kind of led up to it, I'll maybe rephrase this as a statement as opposed to a question, as a point of emphasis for maybe the way ahead. As we've seen, there's been a fundamental shift in the way that not only at the 4-year degree level, but down into the community college level, now into the high school level, a fundamental shift in the approach and how we train and teach our individuals, because for so long it has been, well, just go get your degree and then go to work. They've picked a degree field and then they've gotten their degree and they've gone to work, hoping that the industry that they got into would accept them and go. Now the fundamental shift is, well, let's get those employers into the fold and let's get them to explain to us what they're looking for so that we can train the individuals better to fill those positions. It's not, well, just give them a base set of skills and go. Now let's get refined. And when we get into the CompTIA Plus, Security Plus, Network Plus, we see a broad range of different companies utilizing different things. So number one, it's difficult for the individual to understand, well, what's my best course of avenue if I want to go? Is there any specific certifications and things like that? But the point that I want to make, and kind of the initial idea for the question was, what are we doing in terms of bringing those employers, and you kind of touched on it, but more specifically to say, this is what we're looking for. Once you get that, get these people to work right away. And the reason I say that is because when you're looking at whether an individual is transitioning off of active duty, or such as myself, I'm in the National Guard, I do I work for the National Guard full-time, assisting other soldiers find employment needs, and the one issue that I come across the most is a lot of these individuals are family men and women. They've got wives, they've got kids, they've got financial responsibilities that don't allow them the opportunity to devote a whole lot of time to a 4-year degree, or sometimes even a 2-year degree. So we have to devise ways of getting them in, getting them trained, and getting them back out as quickly as possible into legitimately paying opportunities. Internships are great. I value internships, but they don't support families that need those incomes. So we need to be able to go beyond just the internships and the relationships with those employers and say, we need those jobs to put these people to work. We'll get them the certificates. We'll get them the training. The American Apprenticeship Grant that's out there, that you mentioned, the WIOA, the Workforce Investment Act, all of these are dollars that are dedicated to providing that training to those individuals to get that point.
Let me take that. A very, very good point. There's been a change. Back when I was going to school, if you went to school, you got a 4-year degree, you didn't tattoo your face and pierce your ears, you were just about guaranteed to get a good job. That's all that's gone. Now what we're seeing, our kids are going 4 years of school, you might come out with $100,000 worth of debt, and you're rolling your dice as to whether you're going to get a job. The education community, things have been changing in the business community so fast, the education community hasn't had a chance to keep up with it. The idea behind apprenticeship is the fact that what the business community has been saying is that what the kids are learning in school isn't what we need out here. Our professors, while they're very bright, they've got PhDs, they've never been to the business community, so they don't know what to teach, and there's been kind of a disconnect. Last week, so there's a paradigm change. This program that Dr. Charles and Mr. Bellamy are running is really kind of stands in the gap. What we've done in the Raleigh area, this was last week, we got approved for a statewide demonstration grant to do an apprenticeship program where the idea is to sit down in front of the employer and say, what is it that you need? You tell me what you need. We build that into a simulation type of environment. You tell me what kind of threats you're concerned about. We build it in the simulation. They teach the community college and university teach the course. We bring the students in. They simulate the job. Once they prove they can do it, we say, Mr. Employer, this individual can do it. I know because I watched them do it. In the past, we've been missing that. So we're seeing more programs around apprenticeship. When you look at the German model, they've got a wonderful model. When we look at the communities that have done the best job of educating their young people, they have done that. And the apprenticeship model really stands there. A lot of folks are going to that, and we think that the apprenticeship model and programs like this will do this.
Plus the companies.
Yes.
This symposium, the room is filled up, right? We have so many businesses that are looking to hire, but they need to know what your skill sets are. Last night, we had the reception, we had tables set up downstairs. We had Booz Allen Hamilton here, SAIC, we had General Dynamics, Lockheed Martin, L3 Communications. We have so many businesses and companies here, and I had our class, they had a class last night in here for the Cybersecurity Academy. They went over there and started collecting information, filling out applications. So I think, is that what you're getting at?
Yeah.
How are we going to take them to the next level of being employed?
It's that next level connection.
That's correct. So this is what this is all about. So yeah, it's going to explode.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Julie Powell. I work for the Department of Commerce. I'm the apprenticeship consultant. I cover a great deal of the area north, east of here. I work out of Nosboro, but I have a co-worker, Charlene Cross, who works in this area. I want to ask you, Ms. Marshall, when you say you have an apprenticeship program, is that apprenticeship program a registered apprenticeship program in the state of North Carolina?
register with the program through Antoine Pittman
Oh, okay.
and with the
And
federal
that's
government. Yes.
Because that also means that anybody who is a veteran who is eligible to receive VA benefits for training can receive their VA benefits while they go through that training.
Yes.
I also wanted to say to you, Mr. Lilly, that I'd like to have a time later on to come back here and talk with you about how what you're doing through paid can work with apprenticeship, with registered apprenticeship here in North Carolina to help those people who are in that program transition into actual jobs.
That would be fantastic, because that's been one of our difficulties, is that certification is a minimum requirement, and to receive most, it absolutely has to either be network or security plus, but the employer then either wants to see a portfolio of the programming they've done, or know that they have been on an apprenticeship. And the non-traditional apprenticeships would be great for our military members who may also have to work, regular jobs.
But that's what we're here to do.
We'll talk, thanks.
One other question, are you testing for the cert after the class?
We don't do the testing here. There's testing areas in the Fayetteville area. Most of our students, all of our students are from the same area. So downtown in Fayetteville, there's testing sites, and we provide the certification vouchers for them to go do the test. And that's another one of our challenges, following up. We have to follow up. We can't just say go on your way. You have to follow up to make sure that they're taking these certification exams. So without that exam, you it was all for naught. So, and that's a challenge. We have to follow up with each of the students. Some may not even want to take the exam. They just want to learn about computers. So we're doing that.
But see, that's one of the things that we think that the simulation and modeling will get. I don't know about any of you, but how many times you sat in a class but you don't really get a chance to do it? And then when you start to do it, you say, wow, okay, I'm getting it now. We believe that the simulation and modeling and getting an opportunity to get in a virtual environment and try some things will kind of reinforce some of the things that you're learning. And if you do struggle with the exam, that the simulation and modeling will help you with those exams together. So, but I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
I have a question, because I've heard Task Benson, there's this, and different people said about this is what I'm looking for from the work. So, let me get an idea from you guys what those things are, what sort of the most critical of those things are you looking. Here's these things.
The skills that we're looking for.
Yes. Or whatever you're looking for coming to work.
I'll tell you.
Especially the cybersecurity pieces.
As an entrepreneur, I'll tell you what I'm looking for. I'm looking for intellectual curiosity. The best IT person I've ever had a degree in biology. And when I interview, I specifically ask questions that I know the individual doesn't know the answer to. And the appropriate answer is, I don't know the answer to that, but I can go find it. That intellectual curiosity is what you need in cybersecurity, because the threats change constantly. When you sit in the class, they're going to give you the foundation, but it is going to be your responsibility, and you will make yourself very good at what you do by being curious enough to go out on the internet and research and find the answers. And that's what we're looking for. The other piece that I want to bring out is that many times people self-select themselves out of these positions. I've heard a person say, I'm a banker and I don't know anything about that. Well, heck, it'll be a lot easier for me to take a banker and teach him something about cyber than it will for a technology person, and teach him about banking. So whatever skill set you bring to the table, whether it's munitions, whether it's warehousing, we need that. And that overlaid with cyber really does make you a subject matter expert in an area.
Mr. Lilly, you said a couple times about a programming portfolio. I was wondering if you could expand on exactly what you're looking for with a programming portfolio.
So one of the things that we've encountered with employers who are looking at a military veteran and say, we understand that they're coming out of military MOS and they have a certification. We also know that they don't necessarily have 2 or 5 to 10 years of programming. They do have all this leadership experience. We'll look at them, but can you just show us what they've done? And so literally, if there is a website where they've created commercial software or interfaces that they can point to, when I say a portfolio, that's a programming portfolio, that would be something that I'd be interested in. So if they design apps in their free time, if they design apps that especially have like a financial application to them, a financial connection to them, those would be examples of something that a military veteran can point to. And I found in most of these cases, The individuals who are being hired who are non-military will be military, they will be, of course, civilians because they're not military, but they'll be a few years younger and they would have worked on a lot of these casual programming projects through the course of either their undergraduate career or while they were working in a completely unrelated job. So when I say a portfolio, does that make sense? Websites or apps that they can point to that they personally designed.
So at this point, what we'd like to do is, Veronica, would you like to kind of do a recap of what you heard?
Sure. Okay, what I got was, what was talked about is what is needed, and what was said was forward thinking, the ability to break and fix technology and support services and procurement. And we need to think not just about cybersecurity, but about interdisciplinary needs. Also, PAVE had some concerns. Their concerns were about theft, destruction, and loss of strategic intent. And we talked about how why vets are better fit and basically they're culturally suited for cybersecurity. And on the questions and concerns, one of the main points was that we need to go beyond internships. We need to have jobs, apprenticeships. We need to break employers, ask them what is needed, and then we put that into the curriculum so that the individual can go out and better suited for the company. What was also discussed, someone asked what type of skills would be looked for, and we talked about intellectual curiosity, and that the individual must not self-select themselves out of the position. And also, a question was asked about program portfolio. It says, in the program portfolio, what they're looking for is what type did you design apps, or what is your body of work? And last but not least, Forscom talked about cybersecurity, and what is needed is training, but also experience is the key. That's it.
All right.